Hi, my name is Stephen Nowak. I had a near-death experience at the age of 4 where I met a being of light and sat with this being for a little while, and I saw what I would like to describe as heaven. And this being also showed me other things about healing. At the time, I knew had something had happened. I wasn't sure what. I started to remember about the age of 11, 12. Realized very quickly that it wasn't a good thing to share, so I kept it to myself. And about 25 to 30 years later, the same being I sat with returned to me and spoke the same words. So what I experience is a blur, and I'm going down the driveway. And the next thing I know is I'm looking at myself and I see my eyes roll in the back of my head. And then the screen just fade. It's like the end of a movie where the screen goes black and then it opens again. And when it opens, I'm sitting and I'm leaning to my side and I'm clearly leaning on someone. So I'm asking myself, I was like, my first thought was kind of like, what happened? Who is this? Um, so my head is down. I'm kind of leaning onto my side. When I open my eyes, I notice there's hair that's almost touching the ground. It's long, silver, almost luminescent, um, but it's almost touching the ground. Like that's unusual. And I noticed the bottom of a robe, and it was almost the same color. It was a little darker. So I'm still thinking, who is this? And I turned to ask him what had happened. And instead of it being a person, it was a light being that had no face. They only had light where their face should be. And they were wearing like a hooded robe. And I kind of stood there, well, sat there for a second staring. And I asked the being what happened. And they said, Stephen, you were in an accident. Put your head down. Everything's going to be all right. And so I did that. I put my head down like on this being, and I'm still having, some thoughts in the background. Like I didn't use my mouth to talk, just normal things that I noticed were irregular. So this being says, put your head down, everything's going to be all right. I do. And as I'm looking at this being in the face now, as they're kind of comforting me, and I'm feeling myself being pulled, and I'm being pulled into this being's face, into this light. And then it's sort of when I get pulled far enough, I start to see a scene. That it First thing I noticed was flowers and how green everything was, and there was just meadows upon meadows and the most beautiful nature scene like you could ever describe. And I noticed the colors were their own beings, that they were moving independently, and I understood that they were sacred. And there were so many more colors than I've seen even today living, so many different flowers, the vibrancy. Like I came to understand like that was being alive, and it didn't compare to the density that we were in, the heaviness. So, and I understood things by just being there, just feeling it. And that was it. And it's just so I'm looking at this meadow scene, these flowers, these colors just flowing through the flowers, through the air, and there's a pathway. And I notice, like, in the distance, I see figures, and they're like kind of playing. It looks like they're playing. Um, and they're far away, but when I try to be close, then they're close, even though they were far away. And it's still hard to describe, but they were close, but far. So I'm noticing that one is an elderly man, one's a child, a little girl, and they're playing, and she laughs. And when she laughs, this energy comes out, goes through the air, through the atmosphere, and just hits the center of my heart. Because I'm just kind of standing there now in this scene, kind of watching things and looking things. And it hits me right in the heart. And then I instantly knew that everything was one, that this was love, that everything came from, and that everything will circuit back to at some point. And that in between, we were having a story with creation, and that it was more theater. And I was starting to get those vibes. But I instantly knew, um, that no pain, no suffering, no hate could exist there. It wasn't like it didn't, it can't, because it can't vibrate high enough to form any function. It was that clean. And I started to understand that um, it was energy that I was kind of interpreting. Now, later, it would take me a long time to unpack this. Memories would come along the way. I would hide it, keep it to myself. When this being returned later, that's when everything opened like floodgates. So I tell the being, I want to stay here. I want to go here, because it just felt so incredible. And the being says, it's not your time. We have other things to show you. And the screen just changes. It was like somebody just whoop swiped away the scene I was looking at, and I was somewhere else. So I'm in this room. I guess you could say it's a room. I'm not really sure, but it's like I'm looking at night sky, but there's no stars, and it's not quite black, but it's like a night sky. And I begin to notice lines going up and down, kind of like almost bluish white with a blue tint, but there are lines everywhere. And it looked a lot like a blueprint, like the blueprint of a building. Um, and they explained to me this is the quantum field. You build your reality through your thoughts and your emotions in relation with this field. You send out a signal, your thought goes to your heart, it comes out, and it cycles back. And this is how you create your reality. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm at this point, I'm just kind of watching and listening, still not really sure or understanding entirely what's happening. Then they show me this wheel. It's like a wagon wheel almost that's laying down. And in the center, I understood that I was watching the center, and they explained this is you when you come into the world. When you came into the world, you were pure love, and you're spending your energy to have experiences. Um, and I saw cords going out from what I interpreted as like my heart, because I was this energy as I arrived, and the cords were going out to this outer rim or this screen that was around me. And in the screen, I could see little like boxes, almost like little TV screens. And I understood that they were experiences, and they were being stored here as some type of data. And that's when they explained, you know, you can have your life, you don't have to wait to have your life review. You can have it now. It's called ascension. And then they spoke a little bit about evolution, and how humanity is going to bring all of their energy back into the present moment. And this is going to help them evolve into a higher state of consciousness. So a lot of this just going in to be unpacked later. So I see these cords going out, and they're explaining to me that you can recall this energy and use it, that you're spending your energy as currency. You're literally spending love to experience this place in many different forms. Um, so then next, they point like kind of like in the distance, but not really. And it looks like a credit card, but it's missing a corner, and it has a circuit on it, like a motherboard for a computer, if you've ever seen circuits. And they explained to me, this is your divine blueprint. When you're ready, this will help you restore and recircuit your system, by attaching your belief and your thought to understand that this is your identity, that you are this. So, in other words, when you're ready to believe that you are more than the world, this is here. It's here for you. It's like a get out of the matrix free card. But naturally, once you become aware of what you're creating, you're responsible and accountable for that. But there's a time where we're all just looking to break out of that trauma. And my divine blueprint was there. And I understood. They explained to me that every single person has one. It's the image of creator they were made in. And what they need to do is unsubscribe to the identities the world is giving them and their trauma is giving them, and start believing they are this. They are the image of creator they were made in. This is going to start to reorganize, help their system heal. So that kind of went away. The next thing I see is a triangle that's just kind of coming at me, and it's lit up in that same like white bluish tint of energy, and I see points on each tip, um, and one in the center. And they explained to me, this is Father God, Heavenly Father. This is Mother God, Divine Mother. Make them one, and they'll have a son. And it was at that point where they explained to me, you have a son in your center, in your heart, but it is also a generator of quantum energy. It's also, it can oscillate depending on what it's fed to create the embodiment or character you want to play. So there really is a system behind the thoughts I'm feeding to my body. So I understood, not well, this is later. They're explaining to me that the triangle, when you bring these together, that it becomes a circuit, and that this is a circuit that is wired like a direct current. It's a ground state. And in the middle was that 0 point. And that's what I was looking to create later in my life, once I started using these steps and the things I experienced. But they explained to me that this is 0 point. This is the maximum ground state. And it's a circuit that everyone's connected to, but we kind of cut ourselves off from it. So I saw that, kind of left. Father, mother, son, circuit. And that was the kind of taking out of that experience. And then I came out of it. I knew something happened, but it was like trying to remember where you left your keys or your wallet. And you're like, I know something happened, or I know it was there, but where is it? Or what you ate for lunch last 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday, or last week on a Monday. If you try to think what you ate for lunch that day, or you ate lunch, but I'm having a hard time remember what I ate. It was like that coming out. It had sort of affected me my whole life, though I didn't realize it, by being how sensitive I was, certain thoughts and certain things, and how it affected me. It was kind of challenging in that sense. So I grew up pretty normal, about 11. Well, I wouldn't say pretty normal. We had our challenges. There were many times of, I want to say that I didn't get the love that I think a child should have got. So about 11 or 12, that's when I begin to remember these memories just start coming back. I get the first piece of sitting with the being, speaking to them, and then I'm like, wow, something did happen. And I'm kind of, it's self-confirming for me, something did happen. I'm not just making this up. So it starts with the being sitting with me, and then eventually the more memories come in about what we talked about what I experienced during that time. And this is something that I tried to talk about, with someone, and I realized very quickly, it just made me more awkward. It made me less accepted than I already was, and it wasn't, something that I wanted to continue talking about. So I kept it to myself. I figured it's just a memory, it's just something that happened to me. Then many years later, I'm having a surgery, and I had at this point I had endured many more car accidents. I flipped a car over 5 times at 75 miles per hour. I'm not sure how many kilometers that is, but at this point I had suffered multiple more accidents, played sports. I was in a lot of physical pain from all the things I had done to my body. I was in a dark place as well with my thoughts and my emotions. So I'm going to have this surgery, and I'm sitting in the bed, just starting. I hadn't had medicine yet or anything. And I'm getting kind of panicked, and I'm not even really sure why, but I wanted to get up and leave. And the moment that I sat up to leave, that's when an energy started at my feet, and it went all the way around me, like I was being wrapped in the most beautiful, pure, warmest, perfect love. Like, I don't ever need to leave this, whatever this is. And then that's when the voice sat me down, literally, by saying to me, Stephen, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right. Exactly what they said to me at 4. So the energy just sat me down, and that was it. It was like my material reality was gone. This was real, and it had nothing to do with time. When these two moments collided, and I realized that was the being that spoke to me when I was 4, and it became real at that moment. So visions start, and this is as I'm before I'm going in. Visions, energies going through my body, like emotions, like sadness, fear, worry, stress, joy, peace, love. I mean, like boom, 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 boom. And I'm having visions along with them so fast that I couldn't really place them. So it was like someone was rewinding an old tape reel and it was just going.